SURJ, the sports investment arm of the Public Investment Fund, has announced a major investment in the professional triathletes organization. SURJ's capital injection is part of a Series C funding round for the PTO with an estimated total capital raise of $40 million. CNBC's Emma Graham spoke to Danny Townsend, the CEO of SURJ, about their investment strategy and how investments into entities like the PTO play into the company's strategy and Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030.
Yeah, look, we align to the Ministry of Sports national sports strategy. So any of the top 20 sports that they identify as being important to the kingdom, we naturally will try and find ways in which we can invest in those sports to achieve the objectives of our mandate at SURJ. We obviously are an investment company, so return on capital is really important. But equally, the impact that we can have on the domestic sports economy and the social change connected to Vision 2030 is really important when we assess those future investments. Obviously, for us, when we look at the investment types, we're looking at sports that have really strong foundational strengths, like years of heritage, sports that are global in nature, that serve the big economies of the world. That's important from a return on capital perspective. We look at ones that are skewing young. Obviously, the population of the world is becoming younger, and how we serve those different types of consumers is important. We also look at sports that are sort of digitally nascent, ones where we can take the assets that exist in the sport today, potentially transform some of the product apathy that may exist in that sport, and then really drive digital connectivity to build what we sort of talk about as a digital economy around that sport that's really going to enable these sports to take the next step commercially as the economic sort of landscape around sport tends to shift.
Digitally nascent. We'll talk about that in a second. I find that so interesting, and I know that's all part of your strategy there. You mentioned return on investment. How do you evaluate that with these deals, and are you seeing that with something like the PFL?
Yeah, look, I think we're very early stage. We're 2 years into our business cycle. PFL was our first investment. It had two components to that. It was our global Topco investment in the PFL global business, and then with the launch of the PFL MENA business, which was very much around developing a league for the MENA region that allowed domestic growth and regional growth in MMA, and really provide pathways for young aspiring combat sports enthusiasts to have a path to one day potentially ply their trade in Madison Square Garden as part of a global PIF tournament. So when we think about those type of things, we look at what is the evolution of our portfolio, how long will it take to build the portfolio that we want, and then once we have those important assets, how we really drive them to succeed. Like any investor, you want to have a proactive impact on the enterprise value growth of those investments. So, like any investor, we'll have an investment cycle and a commercialization cycle. And as the investments mature, our ability to liquidate those assets and recycle that capital into the next opportunity is broadly part of our strategy. So we're early days. We're patient. We're certainly not an investor that has a time clock ticking against our target companies and our portfolios. We're very much about how we can lean in and help and use the assets of the kingdom more broadly, not just our capital, but a really ambitious bunch of companies that are Saudi companies wanting to grow their profile on the world stage. We have an ambitious tourism authority that wants to drive a lot of tourism outcomes. We have a general entertainment authority that really wants to bring world-class entertainment assets to the kingdom. So this is not just a SURJ or a PIF play. This is certainly a coordinated effort across the kingdom. And yeah, we're an exciting early stage of that journey and a long way to go.